Hello. So here we are for a solution video for one of my puzzles, the one titled How to Dot Your V's. At the time of releasing this is what I would say is my second hardest. I wouldn't call it still hard by any stretch personally, but it's 2 out of 5 difficulty, which generally just means a little more than just intro level logic. But this puzzle very much revolves around noticing one specific interaction between the rules. And once you notice that, the rest of it is a lot easier to deal with, and that's by design. I intentionally wanted to really hammer in that in case you didn't fully understand the ramifications of that interaction, you're going to learn it from this puzzle, because I keep using it over and over. So it's not really meant to be like increase in difficulty, it's really meant to get easier as you continue through it. So I expect people would struggle mostly with the beginning of this, more so than the later parts. So it looks like we have a lot of rules here, but they are kind of spread around the grid pretty nicely, so it's not too cluttered. And so, bit of a story there. I'm just joking about dotting your I's and T's, but so what we have is we have normal Sudoku rules, so we have no repeating 1 to 9 in the rows, columns, or 3 by 3 boxes. So 1 to 9 appears once each in those areas. We also have dynamic fog. So fog in general is these gray squares, meaning when you place correct digits here, which I'm not going to do because that would reveal things, but when you place a correct digit into the puzzle, normally it would mean that the fog is revealed from everything surrounding it. So it would reveal all of that. But we call this dynamic fog because it means we can actually choose, instead of it being the fog clearing from that specific cell, it might reveal parts of down here instead. Maybe you place a digit here and it reveals that arrangement of cells for some reason. Maybe the puzzle calls for that. So it's not immediately clear whether placing a digit will give you anything, and if it does give you anything, it might be somewhere else in the grid that you're not expecting. The next rule, black dots, is a pretty common rule. Again, this is a 2-star puzzle. I'm assuming people know how this all works, so I'm just going to rush through this. Say black dot, meaning the digits, one of them is double the other. So if that's a 2, that could be a 1 next to it, where 2 is double 1, or the 2 could be doubled into a 4 over here. XV, V means that these two digits sum to 5, and X's, if there's an X in the grid, implied by the rule there will be one somewhere, digits would sum to a 10 on that. Cages are standard killer Sudoku rules, so these two digits sum to 11, because they're surrounded in this cage with an 11 up in the top left. Same for these two summing to 12 down here. Green German whispers lines, adjacent digits on those must differ by at least 5. Once one appears, I'll point that out. Similar for Renban, a pink Renban line, digits along it must be a consecutive sequence in any order. And again, I'll explain what that means when one shows up. I also add a modifier here, that in this puzzle, neither German Whisper or Renban lines leave the box they're discovered in. So if you discover a Renban that looks like this here, and you can see this portion, but you can't see the rest, that's telling you you know it's not going to go up, because it can't leave this box. The final clue, quadruples. There's only one of those in here, but it's saying if you have a large white circle, like let's say there's a circle in this little quadrant here, it will have numbers inside of it, and it's saying that number, or those numbers, appear in that quadrant. And that would be a way of ruling out that those numbers appear elsewhere, like there. Right, and with that explained, let's start. So, I'm assuming you're either here because you're watching my solution and you just want to see how I did it, or because you're absolutely stumped at the beginning. So I'm going to just jump right into and explain what the interaction is that's important. To do that, I'm going to type in all of the possible options for everything here first, just so we can really go through the process of narrowing things down a bit. So black dots can have anything except 5, 7, 9. So it could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8. These sum to 5, so they're 1, 2, 3, 4 in some order. 11 cages can have anything except a 1, because it could be 2, 9, 3, 8, 4, 7, or 5, 6. So that looks like an absurdly complicated mess right now, but we'll go back to that in a second. 12 cage can be 3, 9, 4, 8, or 5, 7. We can do a lot of work with that, because this has a black dot on it. You can't cut in half or double 5, 7, or 9. So this 12 cage cannot be 5 or 7 in either order, because it would result in black dot being broken. You also can't have a 9 on the right, which means you can't have a 3 on the left. So that's either 3 with a 9 on the left, or it's 4, 8 in some order we don't know yet. So, the thing we need to notice here is, if you start looking at the possible options of a black dot, let's say that's a 1 and a 2. That breaks the V, because if you have a 1 and a 2, that can't be either. That would have to be 3, 4, which sums to 7, not 5. So that breaks that. So we can say this definitely isn't a 1-2 pair. But it could be 2-4 maybe. So we can't take out the 2 quite yet. But we can definitely say there's no 1, because if there's a 1, it has to be next to a 2. If we do the same now and look at 2-4, well, that's also a problem, because 2-4 would force this to be 1-3, which only sums to 4 instead of 5. So that's another problem. So we can say that can't be 2-4. It might be 4-8, we don't know, but it can't have a 2 on it then, because 2 would need the 4 next to it. And so that's the interaction that is relevant and helpful and useful here, that anytime you have a black dot that sees a V, whether it be because they're in the same box, or maybe there's a V over to the right of it, or maybe there's a black dot in that order with a V somewhere up here. Anytime you have that, where a black dot sees a V in the same column, row, or box, you can never have 1 or 2 on the black dot, because the same thing will happen. And that means the black dots are restricted down to only 2 options, either 3-6 or 4-8. It also means, depending on that, that will tell you the V order. Because if this is 3-6, then that's 1-4. And if that's 4-8, then that's 2-3. So as soon as you work out one, you work out the other for free. And so now we can actually start looking at what happens in one of these cases. Well, let's look at if this is 3-6. What happens? If that's 3-6, then this has to be 1-4. And now we've taken out 4 digits from the 11 cage. So it now can't be 4-7. It can't be 3-8. It can't be 6-5. So this turns out to give us only one option for the 11 cage, 2-9. Which means down here we would need, can't have 2-9, 3-6, or 1-4. That gives us 5, 7, and 8. And that's relevant and helpful because we have a 12 cage that sees all 3 of these digits. And I'm a little hesitant to say that this is an amazing break-in, because I like how this works, but I worry that people might find this a little bit too kind of guess and checky, sort of. You have to do all this work just to check with the 12 cage. But I like this. I like how this works. So if we say that's 5, 7, 8 here, this can't have an 8. This also can't have an 8, so that forces 9, 3. We'd have to have a 6 for that to be doubled. And this is a problem, because a 6 here can't coexist if the black dot is 3-6, which was what we assumed to get to this point. And so this whole entire chain, kind of going all the way around, leading down here, noticing that, all proves to be impossible to fill, which means this is not a 3-6 black dot. So I'm going to undo all of that work. Might be almost faster to just retype it in, but we now know this has to be a 4-8 black dot. So we don't have to worry about checking if this will work, it's just implied that this must work, because it can't be any of the other options. So this has to be 2-3, this can't be 2-9, 3-8, or 4-7 now. So this gives us 1, 7, and 9 down here. Which doesn't seem like it would be that helpful, because that's only going to take out 9 there, 3 here. But we now have this as 4-8. So if this is a 4, that could be halved to a 2, it could be doubled to an 8. And if that's an 8, this could be halved to a 4. You notice 2 of those can't exist. We have 4-8 there. This now can't be 4-8, so this must be a 2, with a doubled 4 underneath it and an 8 to the left, and that gives us our first fog reveal. And again, this is dynamic fog, so it's also set up so that way you don't need necessarily just one digit. So I set it so you need all 3 of these filled in here to reveal the fog. Doesn't matter what order. If I take out the 8, it goes away. Take out the 4, it goes away. It's when you have all 3 of them correctly placed. We now get another black dot, and another V over here. So I'm not going to go through explaining it again, because we'll see it works the exact same way, but we can't have 1 and 2 on the black dot, so it's 3-6 or 4-8. With a V next to it, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 14 cage, which is either 9-5 or 8-6. 5-6 in the column means this can't be 5-6, so that can't be 8-9. And if you now go through this black dot, you'll see it's a little different how this works. We're still going to be able to prove that one of them doesn't work, but the way we do it is not quite as kind of roundabout as this one was. The kind of more intuitive way to think of this is, if this is 3-6 or 4-8, either way, you can never have a 6-8 in the 14. because you're going to use up either a 6 on the 3-6 or an 8 on the 4-8. Either way, you can't have this work. So this has to be 9-5. That takes out a 9 from here. This reveals the beginning of a quadruple clue down here. So this quadrant, we don't know the other digits yet, but it must have a 7 in it. So that's floating pencil marks for that. We also get a chunk of this bottom right box revealed. So this is a German whisper line. So that is the rule that said adjacent digits on these lines must differ by at least 5. So this would be, let's say if that's a 2, this would have to be at least a 7 to be 5 away from it. This would then have to be a low digit, because 5 away from this would give you 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we have another black dot here. It's 3, 6, or 4, 8. Another V here with 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have an X here. So that will sum to 10 with that. X's will always have a low digit plus a high digit, just because that's how things sum to 10. So that has to have 6, 7, 8, 9 there. And the thing you need to spot down here is you need to ask yourself, where does 5 go in all of this? Because it can't be on either of those, it can't be any of those. You also can't have a 5 on a green line, because you can't go 5 away from 5. You'll either get 0 or 10. So 5 has to go there in this box. We can't quite say anything about the green line yet, because there's too much variance in what's going on there, but what we can do is we have a new X here. So this could be basically anything except 5 if we start with it. But it can't be 2, 8, because we have a 2 there already. It can't be 3, 7, because we already have a 7 there, or 3 there. So it must be 1, 9, or 4, 6. But we can do better than that, because we also have this other deduction to notice over here. We have 8, 4 here, and 4, 8 here. Meaning 4 and 8 must appear somewhere up here. Now we can say that 8 must not appear on the X, because if it was on the X, you would need a 2 to go with it, and we just said you can't have 2, 8 here. We take out 8 from that and say 8 must go here. That also means the 4 has to exist on the X, meaning that has to be 4, 6. 4, 6 here takes out 6 from here, that gives you 5 and 6. But more importantly, the 8 here takes out the 8 from the black dot, so it can't be 8, 4 anymore. This has to be 3, 6, which takes out 2 and 3 from there. This must be 1, 4, so that's either 9 or 6, but it can't be a 6 because we have a black dot here, saying 3, 6. So that must be 9, 1, 4. That takes out 4 and 1 from the V up there. And now we're left with only 3 digits left here, 2, 7, 8. And we can say what the order of, at least the initial order of that is, because we only have 1 low digit available here. So if I put a 2 here, this could be 7 or 8, but what would this be then? It couldn't be anything, because you can't go from 7 to 8 on 2 steps here of the green line. Same would happen down here if we try to put 2 here. So we only have 1 low digit available, it must be the one in the center. So that way the 7 and 8s are a bit separated from each other. And so there's that. That revealed a bunch of stuff. So we revealed the bottom of this cage, which isn't really useful yet, I'm just kind of teasing you with it. We got another black dot here, and another V here. So this one is basically just testing your memory. I wanted it to be a little more interesting, but if you see 3, 6, 4, 8, we can already say it can't be 8, just because that's there. So this is sort of a memory check to make sure that you really understand how this works, and you can just jump to 3, 6, 4, 8, and you get a freebie for it. That's 3, 6, that's 1, 4. Also, I can take out the 2 here and the 3 there. Now, depending on the style of solver you are, this could be one of the tougher things to spot. But if you're someone like me or one of my friends who tested this, and we tend to be kind of pretty methodical when it comes to checking like rows and columns where things can go, this might not be too hard, but the question to ask is, where does 2 go in column 1? Because 2 is locked out of there. It can't be 3, 6 there. It can't be on the 8, it can't be on the 1, 4. 2 is also down here, which takes out 2 from there. So we'll find 2 only has 1 spot in the very top left. So that is a 2. And we get some more information again. We also can work out the order of the V here. That's 1, 4. That's 4, 8. That gives us the 6 and 4 for the X. We also had part of this quadrant revealed more. We have 1 and 4 on there somewhere. 4 can't be on the left half of that. We get another black dot here. Can't be 1, 2, same as usual. That's a V. And kind of like this one here, we sort of have some freebie information. This one's a little trickier only because you might not have spotted the 4-6 locking out the 5 here, especially if you're not using the conflict checker like I am. You might not immediately catch that. But that must be 4-8, which means that is a 2-3. 2-3 here means this can't be a 3, so that's 6 and 3 there. And this is a red band line. So it's saying wherever this red band line goes, we must have it be a sequence of consecutive digits. The order of those sequence doesn't matter. So we could have 1, 4, 2, 3. That would be fine, because, well, it's not fine because of this, but with that example, that would be fine in isolation, even though it's out of order with 1, 4, 2, 3, or whatever I said. The point is, as a whole, that is a sequence of 4 consecutive digits. So I think in this case, the obvious or natural thing to do would be to pencil mark. Just what are the options here in the first place? So we can't have 2 or 3, 9, 5, or 6. So that must be 1, 4, 7, 8 in some order. And so the question to ask would be, well, what could this begin as? Now, in theory, if you were just looking at this without some of these other rules, we could have the line kind of U-shape around, leave the box, and go elsewhere, maybe. But we do have the rule saying neither German Whisper or Renban lines leave the box they're discovered in. So this line, we see it doesn't go left. We see it doesn't go up into any of those. It might go diagonal. But if it went diagonal, we could maybe have 1, 4, and then maybe a 2 or a 3. But that wouldn't be enough to make a consecutive sequence, because the 1 and 4 would need 2 and 3 in the middle, and we can't take up that one here. And we also can't get any help on the 1 and 4 side by going over here. So this must be at least partially 7, 8. And after you do anything from there, well, you can't include a 6 on that, because that's up here. You can't include a 9, because that's up there. So this has to be 7, 8, and this has to be just a 2-cell long Renban. It's the only way to make this work. So 7, 8 in the column here means this can't be an 8, so that's 4, 8. 7, 8 here takes out 7 there. 1, 4 here takes out 1 from there. And the last thing we need to do now is we need to fill in the rest of this box to get some progress. And the way we're going to spot that is this column has 9, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, 8. So this spot needs a 1 or a 7, and it can't be 1. So we can finish off the column here, say 7 and 1. That's going to tell us the rest of this. And now we have the full quadruple revealed down here. So I'm going to get rid of the corner marks. Say this is 1, 4, 5, 7. These can't be the 4. Those can't be the 5. So we don't quite have the order yet, but we can now say the rest of the box must be 2, 8, 9. So that has to be 9, 8, and 2. Now start looking for some other kind of free areas to look at in terms of Sudoku. The top row is only missing, let's see, 7 and 8. So that must be 7 and 8. 7 takes out the 7 from the left half here, so that must be 1, that must be 5. With 4, 7 left over here. That's useful, filling in the left half here, because now we have a 13 cage available. And there's 3 ways to do that, I believe. There's 4, 9, 5, 8, or 6, 7. As you can see, there's only one way that works right now. 4, 9 doesn't work, 5, 8 doesn't work. So that must be 6, 7. 6, 7 there takes out 7 from down here. That must be 8 with a 7 there. That tells us 4 and 8. And that tells us 4 and 7 here. Filling in that right half gives us the bottom half of the Renban, which the only reason that's hidden is to not show the black dot. That can't be a 7 now because it's on a black dot. That must be 8 with 4 next to it. That's going to give us a bunch of stuff here. And that is it as far as clues go. The rest of this is just going to be Sudoku now. So over here we need a 2, 5, 8, and 9. 2s can't go there, 8s can't go in any of those, so that has to be like that. This box needs 3, 5, 6, and 9. 5s and 6s aren't there. But this column needs a 5 and 7. So that's 7 and 5. This row now needs 1 and 9. So that's 9 and 1. That tells us the order of this up here. 2 and 3. Gives us a 2 here. Now the rest of this needs a 3 and a 6. 3, 6. Just completing one row at a time here. We have 1, 7, and 9. It's 1, 9, 7. That's going to break up the order of this. This column needs a 2. This column needs a 3. This column needs a 5. And let's now start looking at these options here. We have 3 available digits down here. Something needs to be here to break it up. This column, this row needs a 1 somewhere, and it has a 1 above, so that has to be 1. This must be the other of the 3, 6. 3, 6, 3, 6, 3. That tells us 2, 3 in the middle. This needs a 5 somewhere, so that's 5 on the right. We also need a 6. And here we have 2 and 9. This is 2, and that's 9. And so just like that, we have dotted our V's. Again, the kind of humor in the beginning is that the dots are a little bit separated from the V's, but point is it's still powerful as long as you see a black dot and a V at the same kind of region of the puzzle. So that's probably something you'll see me use in other puzzles in the future now that I kind of have a good grasp on how that interaction works. It's sort of like in my tool bag of things I can use. But this was my first time designing a puzzle where I just themed the entire thing around like a specific interaction like that, and I think that's something I'm going to try to do more often. Is anytime I notice like neat little interactions, just try to design something around it, just to both demonstrate it to people who don't know it, but also for myself, just as a setter. It adds things to my list of options. So yeah, thank you for watching.